Thank you. I've been seeing you all week. I hope you're having a good time here. You've been seeing me introduce these things probably all week. I'm Jane Miller from the Berklee Guitar Department, director of guitar sessions this year, and we have yet another really wonderful presentation for you. I'm sure a lot of you have met this next presenter, either in your classes or just in passing, and also maybe online. This next musician has a strong online presence. She is a prolific songwriter, and she's been here on the guitar faculty since 1984. You won't believe that when you see her and hear her. She's taught over 10,000 students to find their authenticity and their groove and developing their artist and musical abilities and skills. She has a real passion for artistry in general and for songwriting and arranging in particular. She's a producer, engineer, a multi-instrumentalist. She just continues to grow artistically on and on every year. She has released over 200 original songs, and she also has recorded and mixed for other artists as well. And so I hope you look her up and check out her songs, and I'm sure you'll want to after you hear a lot of words of wisdom. Please help me welcome Lauren Passarelli. Thank you. Oh, this was hers. I'm sorry I took your mic. Hey.
I didn't know they had a separate one. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Jane. I've even engineered some things for Jane. While we turn it back in. So everybody's having a fantastic week. Do we have any songwriters today? Oh my God. It was 1970. I was 10 years old. And all of a sudden, I felt different. Some amazing thing sort of came over me. It felt like magic. It felt like another door had opened, or a veil had a window, something. I was like in another space, like I wasn't even in my room anymore. Something happened, and I wrote a song, and I thought, whoa, I made something up. You know, like, what do I do with this? How did that happen? And then, of course, the very famous question, will it ever happen again? Oh my gosh. We are human beings. We are magical. We are energy. There is so much to this that is so easy, and we tend to make it a big, big deal, right? But you're actually more natural at it than you know. Every single student I have met that's been a songwriter since I began teaching here does it the same way. Every artist that I've ever heard of does it the same way, you know, and they didn't really even have to learn it. I mean, think about it. When you were a child, if you were about 6, 7 years old and somebody took you to a giant toy store like FAO Schwartz or something, would you turn around to your parents and say, does anybody have the manual for this, or a course, or I better look this up. I don't know. How would I play with this? Can you tell me how those trains work, or can you tell me how... It would have never happened. You would have just run and just played with everything instantly, and you would have had the greatest time of your life. You would probably have to drag you out of there. Like, it would be so hard to get you to leave because you had been so interested, and you would have had this natural inclination and not be stopped by anybody. So this is the kind of thing I'm thinking about. It's this inner guidance, this natural desire to create something. It's like, you're a wizard, Harry. You know, like everybody has this ability to create something and make something out of nothing. And as human beings, you just have to put your antenna out there and start feeling for things, right? If we were in an art class and I said to you, everybody draw noses this week, all of a sudden you'd be paying attention to noses and you'd be drawing different people's noses, right? So if you looked around the room right now, maybe we could turn the lights up for a second. Everybody just look around the room. Now look around the room and find everything that's red. All of a sudden, red stands out to you, right? Lights back down. Why? There's a thing in our brain called the reticular activating system. And until you give your brain something to do, it doesn't even know what to do. It doesn't know what to look at because it's filtering billions of pieces of information constantly. And we have to naturally tune it out. You don't know your heart rate right now or your respiratory number or, what's happening with your digestion or anything. I mean, there's so many things you are not aware of. And song ideas are everywhere. I was teaching a class just last semester and a student said to me, well, there's nothing inspiring in Boston to write about. I was like, oh my God, there's infinite things to write about just in this room, let alone in Boston, right? So you have to start giving yourself ideas. And if you have a desire to write, or you secretly want to sing, or you secretly want to write songs, you could start doing it without telling anybody and just start doing it because it can happen. There are lots of ways into this creative process. And of course, if we're talking about songs, we're talking about lyrics. We're talking about words. And I always felt like I had more guitar ideas than I had words. It's like, oh my God, what am I going to say, Because we automatically think it's got to be something amazing or it's not even worth writing down. And we don't realize that things take time and they need to be a draft, and you give yourself permission to just scribble some things and then make it better and turn it up and tune it. So really, to get it to happen again, I noticed that feeling wasn't there. And that's the same feeling John Lennon told George Harrison. He said, listen, if you start writing a song and you're getting some ideas, don't get up. Don't change what you're doing. Don't answer the phone. Don't answer the door. Because it's not that you don't know how to continue. It's that you don't know how to get that feeling back again. How do you play with that magic? What is that? It's like the energy that creates worlds. It's the same thing that's keeping your hearts beating and keeping you alive. It's fascinating. And when you turn on this RAS and start looking for words or listening for cool phrases or something somebody says sounds like could be a cool title, or I love that chord. I think about when you go to a clothing store and you see a shirt that's got some kind of color on it. You see a whole rack of them. Why do you pick the one that you want? What's making that one stand out to you? You like it, right? So pick chords that you like, pick melody notes that you like, pick phrases that you like, or words that you like. That's all I'm doing ever, is putting all my favorite things together. I'm writing the music I want to hear. I'm putting all my favorite sounds together, all my favorite colors. And it doesn't matter whether you know the names of all these chords or anything anyway, because they're just colors. I mean, an artist probably wouldn't even know how to put a particular paint together, right? They're not chemists. They're not people saying, oh, this needs 25% magenta and this needs 35% cobalt and da-da-da. They're just picking it by what they see and what they like. And that's what you need to do for music, is put together the sounds that you like. So then some of my students say, well, all my songs sound the same. That's because you need a bigger frame of reference, right? You need to know more chords. Why not? It's just a big box of crayons. When you were a kid, didn't you want the biggest box of crayons? I don't even draw, and I wanted the biggest box of crayons. So having more colors and more options are good. And then you have been hearing music your entire life. So you have a frame of reference of how chords are supposed to sound, how voices are supposed to hang together, what instruments are supposed to do, and the function they hold in a band, in a song, in a production, in a recording. And all you have to do is just jump in and play with the stuff. That's the coolest thing ever. Guitar ideas. There are so many places to jump in on guitar. We can finger pick. We can pick in fingers. We can just pick. We could do grooves. We could be in alternate tunings. We could put on a capo, right? There's so many cool things. And then again, some of my students will say, well, I found this cool thing, but I don't know what it is, so I probably shouldn't use it. If it's a cool thing, use it. You know, write it down as best you can. Take a video of it. Record it onto your phone. Put it down on a piece of paper and draw the chord diagram. And remember where you put your fingers and what tuning you were in or where the capo was. And just remember it. The creation process is not the analysis process. The analysis and all that stuff came so that we could communicate our ideas. The music always came first. You are natural at making music because you're a human being. Sometimes I notice, oh wow, I almost wrote a song a month. How did I do that? What happened those 2 months? So then I started to realize I could turn it on anytime I wanted to. I don't believe in writer's block at all. I mean, do you have eater's block right now? Walker's block? Sleeper's block? I'm like, what's happening? Am I going bald yet? No, it looks pretty good. It's like, what is happening back there? Everybody's eyes are up there. It's me. That's good. I could use the elevation. You're not writing because you're not writing. There are so many books on the creative process, and they call it so many different things. The flow, the muse, the honey flow, just creativity in general, right? But if you play with words, you find words. And if you play with chords, you find chords. And if you play with melody, you find melody, right? If you play other people's songs, you learn new chords. And lately, because I've been going back to some of my older songs that I wrote when I was really young, I'm amazed at hearing some of the sounds and some of the choices I made because I'm all of a sudden hearing the songs in my mind of where they came from. It's like, oh, that harmony came from there, that texture, that production technique, that's something that got into you when you were 12, when you were listening to Fleetwood Mac, or, you know, like, it's one of these things that whatever is around your frame of reference, you're relating everything that you know and understand and hear to that. And so you want to keep enlarging this frame of reference. You want to keep listening to new people and new artists and new bands and new textures and new grooves. And then there's so many ways to put it together and, again, just put together everything that you like. When I started playing with words, there was this thing called free association and object writing. Changed my life when it came to words. Certainly reading books or watching movies can help you too. I wrote a song called How's It Gonna End because of the woman in the Truman movie wearing a button saying, how's it gonna end? And as soon as I wrote that down in my book and then decided to use it and heard the sentence, the question, my brain answered it. What's it all about? So the chorus says, how's it gonna end? What's it all about? You know, it's not rocket science. It doesn't have to be really complicated. The trick is not to judge it too soon and to let it grow up. And if you play with words or read books or watch movies, you can write these things down and, you know, they don't mean anything. You know, a free association means you just write down any old blurb and any kind of combination of things and fill pages with words. Keep your pen moving, they say. And that without even thinking about it, something pops out of the pen that you didn't expect. You know, you might be saying, oh, this is ridiculous. I don't like this kind of an assignment. Why do I have to do this? I don't even like writing with my hand. I'd rather type it. Well, you could type it. And then you could all of a sudden say, but I remember when and all of a sudden you're off on a tangent. And this great thing happens where you just start writing about something that you did not expect to write about. And that might not make any sense either, doesn't matter, because you put it away, and then you wait till you have some kind of guitar idea. And then a couple of weeks later, you're playing your guitar, and something's happening, and you're going, oh, do I have any words? This is so good. What can I sing about, you know? And then I go to this crazy book, and something pops out at me. So I'm always asking students to do free associations. It's like, write a couple of paragraphs, read us the paragraph, then tell us the lyrics that you came to use, which phrases you decided to put into actual sentences to use, and then play us the song that you wrote. And this one student this time did individual words separated by commas. No sentences, no thoughts, no finished ideas, no little phrases, just single words that had nothing to do with each other, separated by commas. And we were disappointed. We were like, dude, you didn't do the assignment right. And then he read us the lyric, and we went, wow, that is amazing. And then he played us the song, and we all said, I want to write a song like that. So we all went home and did single words separated by commas. And what happened to me was I was outside playing, and I had a cold, and I didn't have a voice. And I looked down at the page once I had, you know, something I was playing that I liked, and I saw the words beyond talk. And I was, because I was hoarse. So I said, beyond talk, I am tired and needing this change. Because we were going to be in between semesters, and I was going to have a break, right? And then I said, behind lights where my star-filled ceiling remains, because I saw the phrase star-filled ceiling. So these things suggest stuff, and then you can find other words. And then I noticed that behind, beneath, between, there were all these B two-syllable words that I could use that I started writing in the the columns on the side of the page, just to say, well, why don't I continue with this pattern, you know? Your brain loves patterns. Your brain loves figuring things out. And if you like making puzzles, writing songs is like making a puzzle. But you haven't seen the box top. So you really don't always know what you're making. You might set off on a path to write this, but you end up writing that. And you're like, what just happened? But I like this too. And then sometimes you're looking for something and it's missing, and you just say, I don't know, there's a couple of words out of these sentences missing. What am I going to use? By the time I came to Berklee as a student, as a performance major and taking a lyric class, they suggested we use a thesaurus and a rhyming dictionary. I was like, can't come out with your own stuff. You got to look it up in a book, come on. And it turned out to be really helpful, because some of my songs I'd have a word or two missing or a line missing for a couple of weeks. Now you could look things up and get really specific. And now, of course, all these books are online. But George Harrison got the idea from John Lennon to do a similar thing, because John wrote Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite, and all those lyrics came off of a poster, a fairground poster, Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. There will be a show tonight on trampoline. You know, all those words, Pablo Frankus Fair, and all those things were right on the poster, and he just made a melody out of them and decided to sing the story of this poster. And George thought, oh, that's really clever. You know, like he was just advanced for doing something like that. And what can I do? Him and Eric Clapton, of course, great friends. And Eric is eating a box of chocolates called Good News Chocolates. And George decides, because of the poster probably, to write a song about these chocolates. I would never think about writing a song about chocolates, and I love chocolate. But here he is singing, cream tangerine, Montelemon, a ginger sling with a pineapple heart, right? And all these names are, you see the pictures of them. If you look up this picture, Good News Chocolates, there's a ginger sling, there's a pineapple heart, there's a ginger sling, there's a Savoy truffle. And that's the name of the song, Savoy Truffle. So Eric had to have all his teeth pulled out because he was getting all these cavities, and he'd pull out all the candies when he was eating the Savoy Truffle. He's like, you'd have to have them all pulled out after the Savoy Truffle. It was his favorite. So I thought that was really clever too. And it made me think, when I saw that in his book, oh my God, if he can do that from a box of chocolate, imagine what I could do with the entire English language with a thesaurus and a rhyming dictionary. It was like, wow, okay, lovely. And then you have the idea of, okay, so maybe some words can happen. You really have to not judge them too soon. You can't be the editor and the creator at the same time. It's not fair. You know? They always say, stick the editor in the trunk. Don't edit too soon. And when you're writing these things, don't judge them. Don't judge yourself. Like, be playful about it, you know? It's a really easy thing to get judgmental, but that really gets in the way. When you start telling your brain, I want to find a bridge for that song. I want to finish this song. How do you finish a song? I would like to figure out how to do that. I need more words. I guess I need more chords. All of a sudden, things will start standing out to you in those other records that you're listening to. You'll hear a chord you like. You're like, what chord is that? That's great. I have to have that. And wow, that was an interesting phrase. Did you hear what that person just said? That is so cool. I could put that in a song. I was having dinner with a bunch of friends once. They were all songwriters. And I loved the waitress. I thought she was fantastic. I said, wow, she was the greatest waitress in the world. And he said, I dare you to put that in a song. And at the time, Paul Simon had You Can Call Me Al on the radio, you know. And I thought, that's so wild, and what the heck is that song about? And an article about Paul Simon said, Paul Simon writes songs about the darndest things. And I thought, I want to write a song about the darndest things. You know, every time I hear of a way that somebody wrote a song, it's like, I want to try it that way. Because the more ways into this whole creative work that you can do, the more options you have and the less stuck you feel, right? So I'm always trying to write in a different way, or a different time signature, or different range of my voice, you know, because when you're singing quietly at home, it sounds great with one guitar and a voice, but then as soon as you try to sing it out over the band, it's like, are you singing? You know, it has to be higher notes to get out over the band. So I started to raise the melody, and then there were times where I thought, wow, I could speed up these tempos now. I started playing drums when I was 36 years old, and I thought, I don't like playing drums to my songs. They go too slow. I don't want to play drums, you know. It's like, well, you better write some things with a groove. So recently, I heard a Dave O'Donnell mix that blew my mind, and it was a Sheryl Crow tune, and I thought, what's this tempo? I want this groove, I want this tempo, I'm gonna write a song here. And I was complaining about a lot of things, and I was saying, let's face it, very little makes sense. It's all made up, and it's all a game, and other than love and being kind, nothing even really matters. And I was just, you know, just like a rant. And I thought, really? You think you're gonna make something out of this? It's like, I don't know, but I'm gonna try, right? So I put the metronome on, and it's going at the tempo I need, and I just start singing some of these rant lines with no chords, just singing it into Logic, getting it into the DAW. And I thought, well, I'll play something around this. And I love this song. It's called Make Something Better. I sent it to some of my friends who are R&B players, bass, and really cool background singers. They sent me back really cool background vocals. I was like, this thing is rocking, this is great, you know? But I would have never thought, I'm gonna listen to a Dave O'Donnell mix today to get inspired with my ears in the mixing process, and I'm gonna find something that is really cool and write a song about it, you know? Never thought about it. Another cool instance happened where I was working on some things on piano, because I'm starting to learn piano the last 10 years or so, and I don't like practicing the real stuff. And it's so obvious. Every time you change instruments, you go, you need the basics. You need to know how to get your fingers moving and your hands coordinated. You're like, I know. You need to make the synapse connection with your hand-eye mind coordination. You have it on guitar, you don't have it on drums. You don't have it on piano, okay, you're gonna get it. And, you know, that's what all these scales and all this garbage is for, you know? It's to get your synapse connection happening and get it all working online. And here's the cool thing about the brain that's really great about practicing and doing anything a lot with repetition. A biology student told me this. He was one of my guitar students, and he was loving biology. And he said, if you've ever seen a picture of a brain, it has all these roads and crevices in it. And he said, Every time you try to do something new, and every time you try to learn a new activity, a new instrument, a new concept, remember what building you have to go to and what time you got to be there. Every time you're trying to do something, your brain releases a chemical to begin a new groove and to begin that synapse connection. I just thought that was the coolest thing. It's like I never have to think about it again. I never have to worry about, how long is this going to take? You know, I just have to get in there and serve the groove, right? Haven't you ever been walking somewhere and you're just thinking about something else? And all of a sudden you go, oh, aha. They call it the aha moment. Something clicks that you've been studying or thinking about or wondering about or trying to fix at home. All of a sudden you go, oh, and you get the idea. That's the synapse connection making its mark. It's like it's in. You can't even forget how to do this now. It's like riding a bicycle. You've built it in now. This is so great. So, yeah, the RAS, making synapse connections, and then trusting your instincts, right? So I like writing songs on the piano, but I find myself very limited. And so I have to keep learning new things and coordinating new things and practicing new things. And I have a lot of compassion for my students. Every time I try a new instrument, I go, oh yeah, this is how it feels like to be a beginner again. But you know, the Zen training says from one thing, know 10,000 things, right? It's really a lateral move that you're making as you're adding new things to your life and to your abilities. You're not really starting from scratch because you're that much more mature now and you have that much more experience. And you bring it all with you. The musician is you. It almost doesn't even matter what instrument you're playing. All that creativity comes with you for every new instrument, and that's a real exciting thing too. So my piano teacher says, why don't you just play with fifths? You know how you put your fingers in the 5-finger position and you play with fifths? The outer notes are fifths. She's like, close your eyes and just play fifths. See if you find anything you like. And when I found some things I liked, I'd write down the letters and I'd record them onto my phone. And I was repairing and remodeling my porch at the time. So a guy was there getting rid of all the rotten wood and the screens and stuff and putting in all glass that had windows and stuff. And he wasn't done. So a friend is over and she says, I don't know, man, I feel a breeze, I see the light coming through here. I don't think he's doing such a good job. This isn't going to really keep the weather out like you were hoping. So I say to him, you've still got more work to do on the porch, right? He says, oh yeah, I haven't trimmed or caulked yet. I was like, oh, okay. So I go call the friend back and say, well, this is what's happening. He still has to trim, he still has to caulk, and that explains the sky, and he'll be back on Thursday, and she went, wait, did you hear what you just said? You said, that explains the sky. That is the coolest title. That should be the title of an album. And I said, no, it's the title of a song. So then I started walking the 3 mini dachshunds, taking a walk. I'm thinking, how many different ways can I sing? That explains the sky, that explains the sky, that explains the sky, whatever. You know, it's infinite. I came up with, that explains the sky. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like Stevie Wonder. I love it. I have to remember that. I'm a mile away from home. I have to remember this. I don't have my phone with me. And I'm thinking all the way there, once I get there and start singing it into the phone, I hope this fits one of my fifths. Those little progressions I came up with. And it fit my favorite fifth. It was a half step lower. Your brain keeps on working on things. You've got to set it a task. Jerry Seinfeld says, your brain is like a wild stallion. It needs training and it needs repetition. It needs discipline. I used to feel like my brain would eat itself if I didn't give it something to do. It loves solving puzzles. If you have a desire to write songs or you already write songs, you've got it made. Because it is the most exciting thing to finish a song. You're playing with magic. There's a blank piece of paper there and a blank recording, and within an hour, something's happening. You're like, where did that even come from? You woke up that morning, you didn't even think you were going to write a song. You didn't feel like it. Sometimes when I don't feel like it, I just go, all right, what's here? Scrolling through all the little things on the phone. What's going on? Is there anything in here that makes me go, ooh, I like that today? Sometimes I'm walking down the street and one of those things is in my head and I go, yeah, I got to finish that. That's good. And then another thing happens. And I go, what was that? I was like, oh, that's the thing that's on your phone like 4 months ago. Your brain will start putting these things together for you if you trust it and wait for it. I mean, you've probably noticed this in other things in your life. You can ask for help, and help happens. Help arrives. You find the right book, the right teacher. You run into somebody you weren't expecting. They have the question, the answer, the address, the thing you need. It's like, well, what a great coincidence. It's really not a coincidence. It's the magic of life, and you can use it for everything. It's stunning that way. So that explains the sky was one of my favorites, and I love that it came from playing with fifths, which seemed like such a silly thing. And then I just had to, come up with more words and figure out, well, what explains the sky? This is not going to explain itself kind of a thing. I heard that Paul McCartney wanted to rewrite or write a song that wasn't buzzing this morning, was he? He wanted to write a song that, do we have a polarity switch on this amp, anybody? The antenna. I remember now, the Performance Center is bring your humbuckers because, there you go. Bring your humbuckers because the Prudential Center does that because of the WBCN. Anyway, Paul wanted to rewrite, well, not rewrite, he wanted to write a song like Blackbird because he liked the voicings in tenths. And I thought that'd be so cool to write something with those shapes. And I was just playing with the shapes, and then I came up with the that's cool. What am I going to sing about? And I thought, oh, it sounds like a lullaby. I could write a lullaby for my baby niece, and her name is Bella. Oh, I could call it Bellaby. Now I have that option, and I love this little place. It's like my favorite place is trying to match some words that fit a cool rhythm, and that's called prosody. And I thought, do I want this melody to fit the voice leading? Or do I want to sing a counterpoint melody and let that just stand on its own? So I decided to put it together. And I came up with, when you call my name, when I feel you smile, laughter sees me in your eyes. Bye, bye, lullaby. Bye, bye, lullaby. And I wouldn't have thought of it unless I had read the article where Paul was trying to write another song similar to that acoustic accompaniment style, and he wrote Jenny Wren. So I had learned both. I played with all the shapes, recorded them onto my mini disc, And it was like 2 in the morning. I was like, oh, I gotta go to bed. I don't have anything. Oh, this sucks. And, but I've been playing with all these shapes. This is great. Okay, whatever. I'll see what I have tomorrow. I had the whole progression. I was like, you're almost done. You just need some lyrics and a title. This is great. You got a third of it. It's fantastic. Go for it, So I just loved it. And that's the thing. You're not trying to write something that's earth-shattering. That'll stop you in your tracks. You're not trying to say, what does the world need to hear? I have to come up with a big message. It's like, oh, that'll intimidate you. You just have to please yourself. I pick melody notes and chords and words that I feel are fun. They tickle me. They're giving me goosebumps. I'm looking for the goosebump factor, especially when I'm overdubbing and adding layers and all that stuff. Oh my God, you get some cool arpeggiated guitars going on with some kind of flangey thing. I'm like in tears, I'm so happy. It's like the coolest thing ever to do this stuff. One time I was here at a clinic and they're doing all that tapping stuff and I was like, oh man, I don't know how to do that stuff. How do you? I just started playing around and I came up with this riff. I really don't want that sound, but I have to. It's better than the buzz, man. I'm like, well, that's cool. What can I do for a verse? I thought that's kind of Clapton-like. I like it. Again, nothing earth-shattering, right? And I thought, well, how am I going to, I can't just play this all day and try to sing something. It's a little too hard. I'm going to have to record this just on a cassette. It didn't even have Logic and those things in those days. And then decide what I want to do. Get the other section, write some lyrics, come up with a title, and then learn how to sing and play it at the same time. Oh, God. But I love the idea. It tickles my brain to do things like that. I kind of like it. It's hard. At first you think, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. Oh, it's not going to happen, it's not going to, oh, I just got 2 measures of it, that's cool. Oh, this will happen. I don't know, it's too hard, I don't feel like doing it. Oh, it hurts, I don't even want to do it. And then eventually you've got it. It's so fun. So I came up with this as an intro, and then I also did it as the chorus. One more time, this time is too many times. There's no rule, no expectations. Dance now, don't keep it down. You can't hear what you won't listen to. And the verses were, I want to sing the first verse. They believe in their own rule to control you. Love, you've got power from your heart, soul, place. It matters who you are, not another dim light. There's a fire within to carry on. One more time, this time is too many times. Ooh, oh, there's no rule, no expectations. Dance now, don't keep it down. You can't hear what you won't listen to. So it's just so much fun to be us. I really think things like that woke up the side of my brain that said, I think I could play drums now. Of course, it's more training and all that hand-eye mind coordination and stuff, but it's really fun to start playing different instruments and playing and singing crazy things at the same time. I really get a kick out of it. And then it's also one of those things where when you learn a song that you love from some other band, another artist you really, really, really like, if you know the guitar part and you've learned the bass part and you know the drum part and you know the keyboard part, you really come into that song from so many different angles and get so much appreciation for it. It's really exciting, really exciting. So every single word has a rhythm to it. Every single word. Syllables are rhythms. So you want to sing things that actually make sense and sound singable, but also feel easy to sing, right? Sometimes the melody goes off. Like I had a student who was really upset that somebody wanted to sing, or he was hearing somebody use the word nada, none, nothing. He was singing nada, and he was going, it doesn't go that way. People say nada, not nada. So in the song, he didn't like that the person was singing it that way. He's like, that's just wrong. But then I remember from Stevie Wonder's tune, you must have known that I was lonely, because you came to my rescue. And if I thought our love was ending, I'd find myself drowning in my own tears. Rescue, ooh, 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 ooh. It's like, nobody says rescue, we say rescue. So then you get into this place of poetic license, and it's like, it's cool. We all sing it that way because of him. We love it, we love it. So prosody, how's it gonna have a singability? What kind of melody notes are you gonna choose? I find that part fascinating, and I think, for me, it's almost easier if I have some words already to find a melody. Because if I'm just sitting there and going, it's just the same old stuff, you know? But as soon as you have a line or a sentence, it's like, ooh, this is interesting. I often with a class say, call out a chord, and say, give me a word or a sentence, and then we try to just make something happen of it. But it's infinite that you can do that. It's not like that's the right one, that's the wrong one. It always comes back down to, do you like it? That's all that matters. And I'll tell you what, if you like it, guaranteed somebody else will too. There are billions of people on the planet. Somebody's gonna like it. And the only person you're trying to impress is yourself. Like, I've never been into the competition in music or the, you know, this is better than that, and this is number one, and this isn't, and it's like, if it gives me goosebumps, it's number one. It works for me. That's all I know. I like my taste. I like the food I like to eat. I like the you know, the sounds I like to create. It's not about, oh, you have this good idea, and I'm gonna steal it from you, and you didn't use that, so now someone else is gonna get it. It's like the muse isn't that stingy. You don't have to worry that if you're not doing your work, someone else is going to get all the good ideas. There's always plenty for everybody. It's a very cool universe that way. One of the songs I wrote, I just recently recorded finally in 2020, was called For Another Star. And I thought it might be appropriate to end with that one because I was 18 when I wrote it. And you probably relate to some of the words there. But it was just like all rhythm stuff, right? So sometimes when you're playing things, you can actually be strumming all the way through, like a this thing. It's just hard when you grow out of where you are. Look for another star. Know where you've been and look to move on somehow. You feel sad when time doesn't show they care. You call but they're just not there, and your love's up in the air, nowhere. Well, it's that time to move on. must be strong. Gonna make it through somehow. Keep on going now, carry on. Keep on going. So much fun to put all that stuff together. I remember not even having a title for that. Oh, thank you. You could do the Robin Williams thing, right, with the applause meter. Yeah, I remember not even having a title for that one, and my drummer that was in my high school band said, "Oh, call it For Another Star." I was like, "Oh, that's good, that's good." Does anybody have any questions or thoughts or a problem they're stuck on with one of their songs right now? Bum, 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 bum. Nobody would. Nobody would dare.
What should you do if you come up with a really cool thing, but like you don't have the ability to like record it at that time, so you don't forget?
Well, you have a phone, right?
Yeah, but like what if you don't have it with you?
You don't have it with you. Well, that's like what I was doing. I was running home singing it. That explains the sky. Don't forget this. Oh my God. Yeah, you've got to remember it. I mean, lots of songwriters, long before we all had personal phones that recorded or personal little tape recorders that would record, they used to say, well, if we can't remember it, it must not be any good, you know, but that's not necessarily true either. I mean, one thing that reminds me of is that you really do need to be a good steward of your ideas. If you get a really cool phrase, write it down. If you get a line that you think, that's really singable, write that down. If you find chords that you really like find a way to remember these things, because you'll say, I'll remember, but you don't. And even with original songs, I'll say to my students, well, how do you remember, how many songs have you written? How do you remember all your songs? They say, I just play them every day. I can't play all my songs every day. I've got other things to do. I have other songs to write, you know? So yeah, you just have to try to remember it. And some people would solfege it if they knew solfege, right? Have you studied ear training? That might help. Sometimes you can notate it.
But most of the time, whenever I write songs and everything, usually what happens is that I write a song, I don't usually finish it, but then like the next day, I find out like another melody and stuff and just write a lot. So I have a lot of like unfinished songs. Is that like okay? Or should I like...
Oh, it's totally okay. The thing is, you reminded me of something I wanted to tell you, that it's so nice and it's so cool to get a bolt of lightning where you just get this whole song or this whole verse or something happens and you go, wow, this is great. It's not just a little thing that you have to follow the breadcrumbs and make a puzzle that you've never seen and, you know, hope that you're going to be able to turn it into something. This is, wow, this is half the song's here or the whole song is here. Thank you. You know, it's one of those. You can't wait for those. They're wonderful, and I'm grateful for all of them, but you can turn this on. You really just need to figure out, like, I would get my favorite pen, my favorite tea, get my word processor ready. I'm usually not in my studio yet. I like, since I was a kid, just writing songs, me and the guitar, you know, or me and the piano. Sometimes I'm writing them on drums. I'm like, oh man, I need an instrument now with the chords, you know. And so whenever it comes, you grab it. But when you have a lot of things that are unfinished, you really have to practice finishing. And that's usually when you don't feel inspired. That's not the bolt of lightning. That's the work. That's the part Billy Joel hates. He actually says he can't stand writing songs. He actually hates it. I'm like, I love it. I just think it's so exciting. It's so fun. Is there a hand back there? Did that help at all? Did that help at all?
Did, thank you.
What should you do if, like, you write a song and it sounds good to you and, like, you finish it and then you listen back to it and it's, like, it sounds too long?
Too long? Could take some measures out of the DAW. Limit the amount of verses, right? Is it kind of a Bob Dylan long or is it like a regular... It depends on what part is long, I guess, you know. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like it's always fast for me, you know? I mean, there are some songs that just linger around for 7 years, like, I wanted to write a riff song like I Saw Her Standing There, right? We all know that one with the, right? Well, she was just 17, and you know what I mean, right? We like the rockers, and sometimes they say it's easier to write a sad song than to write a decent rocker. I thought, wow, I'd just love to write a riff like that, and I came up with a... It's like you're playing a bass line, it's not that big a deal. But for me, it was something different, so I thought, I'll write like a little rocker like that. And that lick, that riff sat around on a mini disc for 7 years before I finished it. And then I came up with, from the middle of me to the middle of you, love rule the earth. Take heart, take comfort now, as one would wish, raise thirst. Can you jump out of time and be there, and be there? So that was fun, and really, love can move the earth. It was something I heard somebody say, and I thought, that's good, you know. Like noticing the noses or noticing everything that's red. Give yourself little assignments like, I'm going to look for song ideas this week, or I'm going to find a bridge to finish that song that I keep saying is unfinished. I remember hearing Tori Amos say she just writes 7 bridges and lets the best bridge win. I never thought of that before. That's so cool, right? So one time I was having trouble writing a bridge. I didn't like it. Write another bridge, write another bridge, write another bridge. I ended up taking the best moments of each of those 5 bridges, and that became my bridge. Right? So sometimes you have to massage things, right? You don't just throw a lump of clay onto a wheel and it turns into a beautiful teapot, right? You have to get in there and play with it. We like it better that way. We like doing the thing because it's fun to do. If everything was that easy, we'd be like, so bored. Oh, I got another Grammy. Oh, I got another Emmy. Yeah, I just won another Oscar. It's no big deal. I just go, there's an Oscar, right?
Is there a better time of the day to see it and compose a song, or do you have to wait for the light to come?
Well, that's what I was just saying before. Is like I don't like waiting for the lightning. I like to try to turn it on. It's a creative muscle. I want to use it as often as I can. I want to think about it, put myself in that mood and in that place. Sometimes I don't even feel like it, but if I play finished songs by bands I love and songwriters I love, I start to feel like a songwriter again. You know, we're made of the same thing. There's no difference between you and any of your favorite artists, really. We're all humans. But what time of day do you prefer to eat? How many times a day do you like to eat? How much sleep do you need? It's all personal, you know. For me, on the hours that I'm awake usually, but sometimes I do dream a song. That's fun. But you will find the answers. You might even wake up in the middle, after a night's sleep with a dream, and you'll have a solution to something to fix or to turn or plug in your studio and stuff like that. So, anybody else? Because I know we're out of time.
If I finish a song and know how to play all the parts, what should I use to record and edit it?
Anything you know how to use, right? Do you have any computer with a DAW on it? People have GarageBand, or you don't even know about what those things are. Yeah, most of us record on laptops these days. And if you have a Mac, it comes with GarageBand. You can record into GarageBand, or you can get Logic. There's Pro Tools, there's Studio One, there's a few other things. I'm pretty much a Logic person. I was using tape all before that, 1/2-inch 8-track. You know, the tape is like this wide when I made my first album.
Do you personally have a time that you're more creative? Like a time of day that you're more creative?
I don't think so. It just depends if I'm in a decent mood. Like, I feel like I have to tune myself, you know? You could be really crabby and irritable, and then you could write an angry tune, or you just don't write anything. And sometimes I just have to tune myself up the way I tune up a guitar or something, and then just try to go. But not too long ago, the Get Back sessions were out, if you saw any of those with the Beatles behind the scenes, and they had all those extra footages of watching them rehearse and make songs and do all those things. And I thought, wow, they did all that in January of '69. What can I do differently as this new year comes around? Why don't I see how many songs I can write in January? And I wrote 23 songs in 31 days because I didn't have a chance to even attempt it on some of those days. And I was disappointed, but I did pick the biggest month with 31 days to give me the more options, you know. And it felt like pressure some days. I mean, even when I say write a song a month or write 2 songs a month, I go, I always say it's easy. How do I do it now? Now I have to do it. You know. But you find your way, you know. You end up with confidence and muscles and experience, and you enjoy the process. And when you solve it, it's like, yes, you know, it's just the greatest. You're like, you know, it's the best bass sound, or it's the best word to put there. Oh, I love the hook, you know, stuff like that. So you just want to fall in love with your own art. That's what it's for, you know. It's for your health and well-being. Everything else can make you crazy. You got to do your thing, you know, and you find out what that thing is. It could be something else. It doesn't have to be writing songs, but that pretty much works for me. Anybody else? I go in and out of all kinds of ones, right? If I'm on tour, I'm practicing repertoire for whatever band I'm playing with. If I'm writing, I might be on a writing schedule. Right now, I'm doing another album, so I'm pretty much in the studio, and I'm the engineer and the producer and the arranger, and if I call in friends, I still have to edit the parts or figure out tell them what I want, and that's sometimes the hardest thing. Just, you know, trying to tell somebody what you want with something that you haven't even decided yet, and they look at you like, well, it's your song. How come you don't know what you want? But you're figuring it out together. So yeah, right now I guess I'm just on a, can you finish this album before the end of the year, or will you put the 2025 year on it? How about you? Do you have a schedule of things?
No, but I mean, there's other authors and other songwriters who they do office hours, or they have a certain time that they sit down, a certain place.
I do take a sabbatical once in a while. I'll be on another sabbatical in January, so I'll be practicing piano a lot more. You know, I sort of try to make time. Like this semester will be a piano semester, you know. Hopefully get some of these more trained up.
How do you organize loose ends, or how do you organize loose ends and unfinished ideas?
Oh, that's a good question. I make sure they're backed up because I don't throw anything away. I even like the scraps of paper or the piece of napkin or the little piece of whatever that has the little scribble on it, and I keep folders, and for the longest time, none of it was organized. When I was gigging a lot with my original tunes, I was trying to organize it by what tuning are all these songs in, or what capo does all these songs need to be, because then I could do them in a show. Recently, because I've released a lot more of them, I've been putting them into folders, like all the sheet music or whatever I've written down in the original lyric sheets, in folders per album title. So now I have a lot of those finally organized. But it took forever. It's like I'm not a good organizer person or even a notating person because it's too much work. You know, I can't. People have even said to me when I was a kid, well, you better decide, do you want to play guitar or sing? You can't do both. And it was like, everybody I know does both. Look at the Beatles, look at Stevie Wonder, look at James Taylor, look at Carly Simon, come on. So it was like, I want to do both. And I love playing with sound and making sound pictures. So to me, being able to say, I need this EQ here, or I need this chorusing effect here, I don't want to have to explain it to a middle person. I like playing with the buttons and the knobs and the switches. I've always loved gear, you know? So I like doing all that, and it's too much. You know, why don't you just put out the album? Why don't you just be the artist? I could, but I really don't have the confidence that I'd get exactly what I want. You know, it would take a little time. I'd have to find people I actually trust. And then who wants to spend that much time with me? You know, when you do it yourself, you don't have to pay anybody, you know? It's expensive. I knew when I was a kid, studio time is expensive. I'm writing way too many songs to spend money on studio time. And if they're not doing artist development anymore and giving you a recording budget, it made more sense to buy the gear, you know? Anybody else?
What do you think is a solution? This is something that I've experienced. What do you think is a solution when you have a very, very good idea, like a melody or a progression, but you don't have the musical knowledge or theory capability to know how to explain it or write it down? It's just in your head and it's so clear, but you don't know how to make it.
Can you get the lowest notes that you hear out on a guitar or a bass or a piano? I would record that and say, this is how the root motion goes. And then sometimes even when I'm playing guitar, I'm not thinking, I'm in B flat, I will go to direct solution, I will make sure the first and second ending has some modal interchange. And I'm not doing an assignment that says use all this stuff and figure out how it goes. I'm putting in things I like. So I might play one note and one note wants to go down and another note wants to go up. And I just play notes around the bottom note and find something. And I feel like I'm making stuff up because, you know, my hand's probably doing something really stupid. They go, oh, it's just a B flat, you know, whatever it is. And then I figure that out. But you could just find things. If you could make noise on something, even a little organ or something, or you find somebody you collaborate with, like Stevie Nicks. She just writes words and words and words, and she sings melodies and comes up with stuff, and then she collaborates with different people who either give her progressions already done, and she writes to that, or they interpret what she's trying to sing and find a chord that fits her melody note in the moment. It's a good question, though. I mean, you could learn a chordal instrument. I love that I can play a chordal instrument. I don't know how I would live without chords. Harmony is like, oh, so delicious. Don't you want to eat lunch? You can. You can email me, lpassarelli@berklee.edu. We could keep talking about things, and I'm certainly on YouTube. I have a ton of free stuff on my YouTube channel and on my webpage that's all about creative process. It's like my favorite subject, so go for it. Thank you. Thanks for coming.